Hello and welcome to Letters from Nowhere, a history mystery podcast where I present letters written by notable people throughout history, and it's up to you to figure out who the author is. My name is Allie, and I'm your host as we take a deep dive into the lives and emotions of some famous names. Before we get started, here are some ground rules. Rule number 1. These letters are fictional and written as I perceive the historical person. My basis for their feelings and emotions comes from the existing writings about them and their own personal words. Rule number 2. Each person I present is no longer living, so that rules out any current notable people. Rule number 3. A link to a poll will be included in each episode description to submit your guess. You will then receive an email with the correct answer to the previous letter. Now presenting Season 1, Episode 6, Ghosts. To my parents, for most of my life, I believed in your musings about God. Our family was special, chosen to relay the message of God to the people we governed. You told me that Jesus Christ is full of kindness, mercy, and tolerance for all people in his kingdom. Was either of you kind, merciful, or tolerant to all people in your kingdom? If your God is so powerful, why didn't he protect me from my family? And if family is so precious, why did mine treat me like I was a wild animal needing to be locked up? Did you know, Mother, that the quality that made you great became the quality that made me weak? I pity you greatly because you loved nothing and no one. You lived a life most people would die for, but it was devoid of color and beauty. Now, because of you, I will forever live as if my hands were bound by rope and weights attached to my feet. You both lacked tolerance for your people, and more importantly, tolerance for me. To my lawfully wedded husband, all I wanted was for you to love me. A wife should be cherished and treated with the utmost care. I've dreamt of a moment in my life where nothing else mattered except the love shared between husband and wife. That feeling is worth more than every kingdom ever built, every war ever won. Instead of that, you gave me pain, misery, and scorn. But I still loved you every day of my life. Our union was quick and passionate, over just as soon as it began. My mother told my siblings and I that we were ordained by God to rule over this country. What kind of woman, ordained by God, has to fight tooth and nail for her husband to stay in the same country as her? I guess the women in Flanders were more agreeable to you. Every time I imagined you with another woman, I wanted to stab her eyes out with a pair of scissors. My hands would shake, my head would pound, and my eyes would glisten. I remember you scoffing at me for being angry at your infidelity. Was I foolish for thinking that you, my beloved husband, would stay by my side in sickness and in health through every obstacle that life throws at us? Lastly, I wanted you to know that we still ate dinner together, even after you had taken your last breath. They tried to pull you away from me, but I wouldn't let them. I told them that at least in death, you'd tolerate being near me. To my girls, I refused to accept things for the way they were, and for that, my family had me imprisoned for 45 years. I put up a fight, like a fire that refused to be put out. I reached for someone, anyone, to help me stay afloat. I hate to inform you all that it took a great while for me to drown. My mother once told me a story about her time growing up in a convent. She hid in corridors while her own mother would shriek about ghosts living among them. Ghosts in her room, ghosts in the garden, ghosts in the kitchen. After my years of isolation, I would see them too. Remember this. If they try to lock you up for being too passionate, I want you to burn them until all that's left is smoke and ash. Grab your life by the hands and never let it go. To my firstborn son, I would have always supported you as my child and as my king. Trying to be upset with you is like trying to cut off one of my legs. I could do it, but it would be the worst pain imaginable. I have but one thing left to say to you. Don't believe every word a man says, and I would have loved a visit from you. Just once.